Welcome to the Yin Project. I'm your host, Emily Bevan. Today we are talking with Britta Shiels, licensed somatic psychotherapist and integrative coach. You can find Britta at soulfulsomaticcoaching.com. Let's get started. I'm sitting down with Britta Shiels. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Licensed family therapist and coach.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about kind of all of that.
Yeah. I started my career actually in the wine industry in San Francisco. And I did that for a few years, and it was great, but it wasn't fulfilling to my soul, so I started to feel like a yearning to go back to school to become a psychotherapist. When I was a kid, probably about age 10, I did my first therapy intervention, if you will. My mom and my sister were fighting, and I remember coming into the middle of it and interrupting it as best as I could, saying like, I know you seem really angry, but I'm wondering if we could just take a breath. I don't think I said that, but I think I was trying to say, what are you actually feeling? Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of my understanding that I think I was born into this world with like an acute understanding and recognition of emotions, mm-hmm. and an impulse to heal. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't appreciated when I did that intervention.
Right.
And, but I see now how I was showing a part of myself that is really authentic, mm-hmm. That's a big part of my story. So I got married in 2011 to my wonderful husband, and I realized I was ready to go back to school. I knew that by going to be a therapist, it's not just a job for me, it's a calling. I knew that it would require me to heal a lot of the wounds that are mine and also, inherited from the women before me. Mm-hmm. I knew it was going to be a rite of passage, and I wanted that. So I wanted to have more life experience and to be ready. So I think I had a feeling of being safe and anchored, and in 2012, about 10 years ago, I went back to school to become a psychotherapist. And 4 months later, I was pregnant with our first child. Yeah. And that began the last decade of a dual initiation, if you will, mm-hmm. into motherhood and into becoming a healer. And so the story starts there. It's long and winding. But it's culminated in me becoming licensed, and then the pandemic happened. Mm-hmm. And then, like a lot of people, a kind of inward reflection on my values and how I actually want to serve, and, reflecting on the experiences that I had as a therapist in working within communities and systems like hospitals and schools. Mm-hmm. And it's so rewarding. And also, I'm really want to be led by my nervous system and my energy first, mm-hmm. and to be a really sensitive, empathic person working within systems and that are very draining and stressful. It drained me of my energy, and I can't.
Working in hospitals specifically.
And so I didn't want to pursue doing that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to pursue working in schools, even though I love children, and I feel like my work that I do by proxy is protecting children by, supporting caregivers and parents and the adults that are actively caring for children. But I kind of had a come to Jesus moment where I really took stock of how I want to share my healing gifts and how I want to use my energy in this world. And I have the privilege of, extensive years and hours of training. And how do I want to put that to use? And I wanted to put that to use in a way that gave me more creative freedom, the same amount of integrity. To be a therapist, there's a lot of rules that you have to abide by.
Right.
The whole entire structure of being a therapist is we're there to protect the public, if you will. Mm-hmm. But that kind of level of integrity lives within me anyways, regardless of being within that system. So I decided to pursue becoming a coach. I got excellent coaching from a really independent thinker and progressive therapist who also does coaching and helps us, people like me, see beyond just doing one-to-one therapy as the only option after getting this license. It's not the only option. And to work with women as I do now in a very holistic and integrative way. So the type of therapy I was trained in is somatic psychology. And that, in the simplest terms, just considers the body's intelligence and experience in the moment as a reflection of the inner mental, emotional, spiritual world of someone. It is considering not just our mental thoughts, but how the body is relaying our histories of trauma, of stress, of coping.
Is there a physical interaction that you have when you're doing this therapy? Like, is there touch? Is there massage? What to tap into that physical? Because there's I know the body can hold on to trauma. Yeah. How do you tap into that and release that or work with that?
Yeah. Well, there's many ways to do that, but in terms of psychotherapy, I actually are licensed as a somatic therapist. You are allowed to use touch, therapeutic touch, if it is meaningful. I never did, except in working in a hospital, sometimes a therapeutic intervention was holding someone's
hand. Sometimes a nice, a pat on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I mean,
making someone feel safe.
It's powerful.
It is. It really is. And it's a valid intervention that has a lot of energy and fear around it. But really, in the moment, it's more of just noticing physical responses in people. When someone's talking about something and maybe they start to get really red or they're sweating, and these are signs of physiological indications of something happening. So there's more to the story. There's always a story behind what our body's relaying. And so it's being aware of someone's nervous system's response in the moment.
Like a clenching of the hands.
Exactly.
Or you're able to
closing of the heart.
Interesting.
So it's very multidimensional. We work at the level of thoughts, which is valid. But it's fundamentally saying that when we are overcome with emotion, the way that our bodies work is that sensations actually come first. They come before emotions.
Oh, gosh.
But we live in a culture that moves very fast and is really kind of split off from their body. And that's reinforced. And so somatic therapy is really an invitation for people to slow down and notice their body's cues, gain greater insight, and to feel, to be able to make the connection between the sensation first, before the emotion, before the thought, which is the story of the emotion.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
And so it's just I as you can tell, I really loved doing that kind of therapy. But what I do with my coaching is, as an integrative coach, is...
Tell me also, who is your ideal client?
That's a great question. I think I have a few. I think I could... I think it depends. I think I see kind of a variety. But I would say that my ideal client is likely a woman who is a leader, is creative, spiritually minded, generally a mother. I think I serve my community.
Because you have 2 kids.
I have 2 kids of my own.
2 boys.
Someone who is looking for greater alignment and greater meaning making for their experiences. They've run into a block of, I keep doing the same thing over and over again, or, really attuned to maybe their thoughts and have tools of working with their thoughts, but really don't feel a strong connection to their body and what their body's trying to tell them, and how to care for themselves with their nervous system in mind, how to care for their energy, how to understand their hormones. All the physical, I think, is such a foundation that we skip in understanding ourselves because we have so many components. I mean, we are a soul living in a physical body. We have emotions, we have thoughts, we have so many components, and I want to address them all. I don't want to, they're all equally valid, and they're all trying to tell a story.
Do you think we're going to get a time? I mean, we are. Like, medicine has changed so much. We're both kind of the same age, early 40s, has changed so much, but there's still so much that we don't know. Do you see it pulling into more of that functional medicine path, like in our children's lives, where it becomes more of an integrative? Am I using that term correctly?
Yeah.
But functional medicine?
Functional medicine.
Yeah. Like, do you see, because right now, if you want to get those integrative, if you want to be able to go to a naturopath, if you want to go get acupuncture, you're usually paying out of pocket for that, so that there's a cost barrier for many people.
Right.
Do you see the two merging, like in our lifetime or our kids' lifetime? Because it just seems, you know, like I just talked briefly about the gut, more so from a feeling of like listening to your gut and the intuition that you can get there. But within the last, 5-10 years, we've heard gut biome. Now there's like the skin biome. Like they're making all of these connections and realizing like just putting people on antibiotics is not necessarily a good thing. And now I just heard a medical term of antibiotic stewardship. So there's more of an emphasis on like using them very, very specifically and carefully with like real intention versus like, oh, just take a course of antibiotics. So I guess back to my original question, like, do you feel like we're on the path, and do you feel like it's going to merge somehow? I mean, it's such a greater question just with how insurance and everything is structured. But to me, it's like there's these two worlds. And I really, for me personally, I want to just play in the integrative world and don't really want to have to go to my Western doctor at all. So yeah, like, just what are your thoughts?
It's a big question.
It is.
I think I can only speak from my experience, but I consider myself someone who's really interested in bridge building and connecting fields, and already, in psychotherapy, it's, the kind of therapy that I was practicing was the most holistic and woo corner of Western psychology. And neuroscience is a part of that. The intersection of neuroscience and contemplative meditation practices, seeing those bridges come together, which there is, and there's tons of research. And then seeing what breathing and the vagus nerve does to the brain. And so it's happening, it's possible, and there's always people in every field that are thinking towards the future, questioning the systems that they're in, and having the courage and hope, really, and resources and support, if they can, to forge a new way.
I really like the bridge metaphor, because we don't need any more division in our world at the moment. So it's not an East versus West medicine. Listen, thank God for penicillin. Thank God for antibiotics. My kids get ear infections all the time, and I'm not like, oh, just write it out. I'm like, we need the amoxicillin, because I used to get ear infections as a kid. They're terrible. So it's not a like one or the other, but it's how do we take the best from both and bridge them together? And I guess I just will say, when I was a teenager, which was in the 90s, I may have told you this, but I was in like a really local like magazine shoot for a company that kind of a long story. Anyways, it was a children's catalog, and they had some adult clothing in there. So I was a model for one of the clothes, and I was in a yoga position. And the owner got so many angry calls about the yoga position and how it was sacrilegious. It's just like, I don't know, like, but that was in the 90s. And now, like, you look at yoga and it's everywhere. And like you look maybe 15 years ago, like meditation, now it's like everywhere. So like I guess I'm answering my own question. And like I do think we're at this time, which like we could talk about that too, and we could get really woo, but we are at this time where my husband likes to call it like our teenage, like we're culturally, it's just from a global perspective, it's like we're in this really awkward teenage year, and we have to like get through it. But I can feel we're on this precipice of change, maturity for so many different reasons, like just socially and climate and environment, which is going to be such a focus. Let's talk about woo. Let's switch over to you, woo, because we're.
Well, I want to say one more thing about
please
about the kind of bridge building. I think the future is integration. You know, it's integrating parts. Like in therapy, that's the goal. You know, one of the goals is helping people feel and get back to a sense of wholeness again, you know. And you know, Western medicine is one phenomenon that is incredible and has so many benefits to it. And also it's a flawed system. And you can say that about any of our systems, you know. And, you know, ancient sciences, like Chinese medicine, Ayurveda in India, it's like these things have been around for so long. And I want to culturally appreciate, not appropriate them, but the wisdom in expanding how you take care of yourself if you have, and that's why like making these things more readily available and accessible is so important, because you know you can't change how you're coming at something if you don't even know it exists. If you don't have the education, and so there's not the option. But I always thought for a while actually maybe that I would start some integrative health center. And like, how cool would that be if you had?
Still might.
I know.
You still can.
A therapist and an acupuncturist and primary care and just all the complete caring for the complete person.
I had a doctor like that in San Diego, maybe 10 years ago. It was an amazing practice. Yeah. And I haven't found that in the Bay Area where I have found naturopaths. I have an amazing Chinese medicine doctor now, but it's very compartmentalized. Yeah. And that's kind of the system. Yeah. You know, you go to this for gastro, you go to this for that, and you don't have that whole person looking at the whole picture. Yeah. Do you want to talk about food and nutrition at all? Because you kind of like, what are your thoughts? I get super overwhelmed with all of the information that's out there in terms of what to eat, what not to eat, what to take, like the supplements. Like it's overwhelming. We all, I think, no, I shouldn't say this. There's so much more evidence that like dieting, just it simply doesn't work. It's a huge multi-billion-dollar industry. These companies are here to make money. I don't know if you just saw, but Weight Watchers is now trying to get into something with Ozempic. They're trying to do telehealth and possibly be prescribing Ozempic. It's like they're there to make money. I think there's a large community that's like diets don't work, intuitive eating, listening to your body. But then there's other people that, you know, share other information about, you know, just juicing and like the medical medium, and you know, he's just all about drinking celery juice. And it's for the average person, and maybe the person that like has to really think about what they're going to spend their money on at the grocery store. Like, do you do anything with nutrition, or do you collaborate with nutritionists? And like, because we are talking about what you do with the body, like how does that all work? What are your thoughts on it? You know, I went to the Culinary Institute of America. I'm a trained chef, like, and sometimes I don't know what's healthy to eat because of all of this outside information. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love food. Food is a big part of my life. Nutrition and nourishment is a huge part of physical well-being.
That's a really good word, is nourishment.
It's nourishment, yeah. And it's also crucial for your brain, you know, eating certain things. It's not within my scope. I mean, if I answer, it's just my personal experience. It's not really about like how I work with my clients or anything. I'm not giving them nutrition advice. I'm referring them to maybe an Ayurvedic practitioner or a naturopath if they can, you know, pay for that. And but for me personally, I eat for my energy. I eat for my brain health. I have a very active mind, and I mean, a lot of us do in this day and age that's very fast and stressful. But regardless of stress, you know, I have a very active mind, and I need to eat to support my mind. So that means I need to eat, you know, some healthy fats. Like I need to have minerals in my diet. I need to stay hydrated. I mean, it's super easy. Yeah. It's hydration. I think more the food, yes. I mean, I think nutrition and nourishment is crucial for your well-being and taking care of your physical health. So many things are too, though. Are there any things I'm just curious that you don't eat and why? Well, you know, I'm like, I feel like I'm finding my way to veganism. Okay. As I journey as a soul. You know, I kind of pretty much was eating a mostly plant-based diet last year, and then... How did you feel on that? I felt great. I did. I felt great. Because that's the other thing is it's so... Everyone is different. Yeah. And so one thing that may work for someone might not work for someone else. I feel like it's a journey, and you have to allow yourself to be on a journey without categorizing yourself or identifying. Like, I'm not trying to identify as a vegan and then... you know, go into my whole spiel. Is that part of the intuitive eating? And do you know any like intuitive eating practitioners or? Yeah. And okay. I abide by the principles of intuitive eating. Luckily I've done that on my own. I was raised, my mother, like food was a pleasurable and, no like emotional weirdness around food. It was like she didn't have that stuff, which was really nice because I love food and I always love eating and I still do. And it was always like teaching me about growing food, and I innately wanted to cook. And did she cook every night? She didn't. No, she's not really like a cook. Yeah. No, I didn't really learn that from her. But what I did learn from her is like an appreciation of food, appreciation of nature. Okay. And so who cooked the dinners? I mean, yeah, she did. I don't know. Sometimes they weren't homemade. Yeah. She worked. Yeah. So she was picking. We lived in Napa, and she worked in San Francisco for a few years. Oh my gosh. So she would commute and then come home until like 7:30. Okay. So. My mom had dinner on the table, like meat, potato, vegetable, every night of my whole life. Yeah, no. And we had tea every single night. Wow. And we had iced tea in the summer, but it would be a hot tea. So food was like a huge part of obviously, like that's kind of been my whole journey. It hasn't been until recently where I've been so confused by food. But that I think is just like a lot of the noise. And it goes back to like doing what feels good to you and your body and kind of tuning that out. Exactly. Tuning into your voice and what you actually feel like. Tuning out the noise because the noise is just there. Tuning in to you and tuning out like kind of everything else. And the other thing is permission to continue to pivot and adapt. Just because you decide to do something this week, you get you are allowed to do something different. So and that's okay. I have a client, and we've kind of gone back and forth, and he's going to buy something and not buy something. And he told me, and this has been going on for a while, and we've developed a friend, like we are friends at this point. He's a very close friend. Yeah. And I was traveling, and he sent me a listing, and I said, "What are you doing?" And I thought you were done. And he said, "I reserve the right to change my mind." And I said, "You know what? You do reserve the right to change your mind." I really like that because you do. Yes. At any time.
It doesn't mean you're flaky. It doesn't mean, anything. Like,
no. It means,
I really like that.
It means you're experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
It means you're being led by your curiosity, and you're not just saying, I have to do this thing because that's what someone's telling me. This is what Gwyneth Paltrow's telling me to do. No, you do what Emily feels.
She's gotten
is right for you.
She's gotten a lot of flack for that.
I know she does. And
people are not happy about her wellness program.
Well, I think it says a lot about the wellness industry and needing to be very careful about.
She was literally hooked up to an IV doing this interview.
Getting her vitamins. Good for her, if that makes her happy.
But I think it's just made a lot of people really, really upset.
Yeah.
The bone broth for lunch. Well, soup. With soup, I love soup. Like, love it, but bone broth is not soup.
No.
And then she doesn't eat in the morning. She just has coffee, and then she does paleo at night. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like 600 calories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's enough calories.
I think intuitive eating is you eat what feels good.
Yeah, yeah.
And you remove the stories and the conditioning around food.
Mm-hmm. And if you have like real, I mean, I experimented doing dairy and gluten-free just to see what it would feel like, because I've heard, it creates all this inflammation and da-da-da-da-da. And I talked to people that were also gluten-free, and they were like, no, if I had gluten, like, I would have severe issues for like days. And like my Chinese medicine doctor, he is celiac. Yeah. So like there's a real need, and I don't have that need. I don't have any issues eating it, so I don't have any problems with it. But it's just kind of going back to the like, what feels good to you. And if it feels fine, then you can go ahead and do it. If it doesn't, then obviously don't.
Yeah, we're waiting for someone to give us permission.
Yes.
And that's just
what we're supposed to be doing, what we're supposed to eat. What is that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. That is, it could be for many reasons. But if it's a part of you, a younger part of you, that it could be this. It could be a younger part of you that maybe it depends on your a lot goes back to childhood, right? Like our first childhood relational experiences. But a lot of the clients that I have, and I would say myself, a lot of my clients, the way that I'm helping them, everything that I'm helping them with, I've helped myself with. So I identify with the wounded.
Well, you see these patterns.
Oh, yeah. And I want to offer, in my integrity, I offer what I know something about. Mm-hmm. So I do bring my background. So I have like a psychological background. And I'm bringing that in. I'm not doing therapy with my clients because coaching is different from therapy, but it is informing my understanding, so I appreciate that. But then my lived experience, that's what I can relate and share and connect on. Mm-hmm. And so for me, having self-trust issues has been a huge part of my life. And so...
Oh my gosh, I've never even heard that phrase.
Yeah.
Self-trust. Like when you think like, they have trust issues. It's that there was a boyfriend that cheated on them, or a parent that did something terrible to them. I've never heard of self-trust.
Yeah.
You're blowing my mind.
Well, it's important to hear, I think.
Yeah.
Because if I can break it down, you'll probably recognize, when you're not exhibiting self-trust and how we can work with that. So, like, for example, the upbringing that I had, and it's not just in the home, it's also, we are conditioned in a society. So I went to schools, I went to public schools. My heritage is Scandinavian and Irish, a lot of rules, and authority and systems that we're a part of. Not just your family unit, but the family unit interactions really, really matter because it's happening daily, on the daily. But I have a very strict mother. Like the parenting was very strict. It was authoritarian.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to survive the circumstances that you get.
And can we just pause?
Yeah.
Authoritarian is a parenting style that is all about consequences.
And control.
And
compliance.
Versus authoritative
Yeah.
is more...
Authoritative is you have your authority as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
You have boundaries that are
Mm-hmm.
enforced warmly
Mm-hmm.
and lovingly.
Mm-hmm.
Firm and warm.
Mm-hmm.
And there. So the difference between authoritative is actually kind of like, a goal that I'm working towards. Authoritarian feels much different. It's like the hammer coming down. It's
Yeah.
I said so.
Right.
It's
with no explanation.
I am the parent.
This is the rule.
Yeah. It's not investigating, the child's feelings or anything. Mm-hmm. It's not a equal relationship.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I try and do, instead of saying, if you don't, well, my kids are old enough to like really clean their room. Yeah. I mean, they are, but not really. But instead of like, if you don't clean your room, you're not getting ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is an authoritarian.
Yeah.
Authoritarian.
Threats.
Yes, the threats. So I try and switch the script. If you want to have ice cream, you need to clean up your room.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning like there's a positive that you need, but also like you need to do this thing to get that positive. Is that a good example?
Yeah, one step even further, because like I feel like we can slip into that. That still also is kind of a threat.
Mm-hmm.
The way it becomes not a threat is it's like making it explicit that, so if you choose not to clean your room, then you're choosing to not have this other thing. It's like a choice, like how this is actually a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So choosing to clean the room means choosing to receive that thing that
it's your choice.
Choosing not to leads to this choice, which is this is what's going to happen because I'm telling you. And then when you're forced with that choice, well, then the power is within them.
Right. And that's one of the things my husband really strives for is choice and consequence.
It's choosing, yeah.
You choose, and there's a consequence for that choice.
Yeah.
In life.
Well, it's just a natural consequence, right?
Right.
It's like this happens. We are the results of our choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of sidetracked us from talking about that. So we were talking about super strict at your house.
Mm-hmm. So the combination of the super strict with a very intuitive, empathic, sensitive child, myself.
How did that work?
Well, you do what you have to do. You self-abandon. You self-abandon in service of survival.
Right.
Every single person who's alive has done this. Mm-hmm. You adapt to your circumstances. Mm-hmm. You adapt to continue to get the love that you need, the safety. And so you self-abandon. And so that means you're overriding.
You self-abandon your own...
whatever it is.
You-ness?
Parts of you.
Parts of you.
Parts of you.
Okay.
So if you start doing that, and then you make choices that you know will make the environment better for you, then you start to lose touch with actually what's your innate impulse. So when you start losing touch with that, you see how that quickly leads to like not even knowing what you need, not even know, and then also not feeling safe enough to ask for what you need. And the detriment of that is that you get further away from your ability to honor your impulses. You have to work on that relationship again. Mm-hmm. And so the way you build self-trust, honestly, is by listening to your body. Because your body is the only thing that's actually, like, what it's revealing to you is actually the only thing that's real. Our minds tell stories about what's happening, but when I'm feeling like, if I have a cut, I'm feeling the cut. Or if I'm feeling super tired, that's just how I'm feeling. And so when you honor like your need for a break, you're building self-trust.
How do you, what's a simple exercise, people that are listening, watching this?
Yeah.
Like, is that a meditation? How do you like truly listen to what's going on with your body?
It's kind of like a living meditation. I'll use an example. Say you have a busy day and, you have a 1.5 hour appointment on Zoom, and then maybe you have 30 minutes in between, and then you have another one set up after. So what do I do with that 30 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you build more self-trust. You stop after your first interview or whatever you're doing is over. You pause, you check in, you touch your body in some way, you touch your heart, you lay on the ground, you put your feet up on the wall. You do something where you're checking in and you ask yourself the question, what do I need right now? Like what's best how can I best serve my energy right now?
Mm-hmm.
And you cultivate, it's a muscle, listening to your intuition, asking that question, tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you get an answer. And then go and then do the thing.
And then do it, yeah.
And if you do the thing, then your body's like,
Mm-hmm.
I just told you what I needed and you just did it.
Yeah.
And that's the foundation of trust. If your body can't trust you,
Mm-hmm.
then how do you trust yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So it's listening to the body.
Okay.
Making that space.
Yeah. I mean, I experienced this personally yesterday. I was working all day, sitting, and I was like, I need to go for a walk. I knew I needed to go.
Yeah.
It's like, it just becomes this thing, like I have to go and stretch my legs type thing. And I did, and I felt amazing and was grateful and saw a rainbow at like 6 o'clock at night.
I saw that too. It was so pretty.
Did you? Oh my God.
So pretty. It was so pretty. I loved it.
I'm like, how lucky are we?
I know.
Like to see a rainbow. Like it was late.
Yeah.
But you get that golden glow now with the time change, and you still get to enjoy the like beautiful sunsets. And yeah, I'm so glad that you got to see that, because that was kind of random.
It was electric.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, the light last night was just amazing. Because we're so lucky, because you and I used to live in San Francisco, which is amazing, and we all, we have our friends and we have our family. I still work there. But we also get to live in beautiful Sonoma County.
I know.
Which is amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think we both are very grateful.
We are very grateful.
Yeah. Like I contact awe on a regular basis. Looking up at that rainbow last night, it touches me. Like it's like, it's a visceral feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I could contact that feeling, because it's enough.
Yeah.
It is enough. And actually, we are enough.
Yeah. But I feel like Sonoma is slower, it's quieter, and there's more space physically, emotionally, mentally. Like it's just a good little corner of the universe.
Yeah. And it's beautiful.
And no, it truly is beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could we shift gears and talk about Aries? Because there's another side of your work. Like you're a licensed therapist, you have the coaching side, and then you also have this other side regarding astrology, and then human design, which we've talked a little bit about. I don't think we'll talk about that. I think I'll have to come back and we can talk about that. But I know a lot of people are talking about we are in Aries now, right? We're just
Aries
started
season now,
because it's today. It was started on the 21st. Yeah. So let's talk about that and where things are going. And I don't know that much about astrology. Okay. I am an Aries, so I only know about my own sign because I'm like super selfish. I know, it's my season. That's why I want to selfishly talk about it.
A podcast.
Exactly.
It's a very Aries thing to do.
Yeah,
it's like
everything in. My mother-in-law was just telling me this last night. The 3 weeks before your birthday, my birthday is April 13th, and then the 3 or 6 weeks after, you're basically planning your whole year, because your year kind of is, so like if you're born in July, like your year is essentially July to July.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, tell us all things about Aries, and then tell us about how you like naturally, is it incorporated into your coaching? Is it a one-off if somebody wanted to have their chart done, and talk about that? Like tell me about the offerings so people can find you and like work with you and all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll start there because, yes, so astrology is a passion of mine. I have one tattoo, and it's my sun sign. Nice. And I got it done when I was 19, and it's still relevant. I've always been really connected to nature and fascinated by the stars. And like I early on heard about astrology and was just super curious about it. And then really dove into my own studies, you know, in the last decade. And part of the reason why I wanted to do coaching is because I get so much more opportunity to do what I want, you know?
Yeah.
So coaching.
Yeah. If you have a knowledge and people want to know, like, it's a perfect platform to do that.
I can make my own mashup of how I want to serve, how I feel like I can best serve. And so astrology is a map of energy. It is a system that we are a part of that is happening, and it's a grand plan, and we're a part of it. And me surrendering, it's like a higher power, really, because it actually is energy and it's happening. And you either want to get on the stream of the energies, or you can feel what it's like to resist them, or just completely be unaware of them and feel like you're being bounced around and life is happening too, and what's the greater meaning of why this is happening. So it kind of allows you, it's like a safety net. That's how I see astrology, and a communion with the universe. But with my clients, I get their chart, I read their chart, I integrate their chart in all of our work, because it helps me as a practitioner to see what they're coming to me with, where the energies are in their life, because astrology is about energy and relationship. So within a person, in their chart, you can see the natural strengths that they have, the challenges that they might come up with, where there's tension in their lives, how they need to integrate energies. There's so much information.
So I have to be really honest.
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed, and we've talked a little bit about Enneagram, and that is easier for me to like latch onto. And then human design is harder, but it's also easier, meaning the hardest for me is astrology. I've had my chart done, and when they start talking about the houses and the signs and the rising and the moons, like I get really overwhelmed, and I feel like I don't know what to do with all of the information.
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. I don't know what it means, and I don't necessarily think they make it super easy, but maybe that's part of it.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
And how I've heard learning astrology is that you learn what you can learn at that time, and then you let it sink in,
and then you let it go,
and integrate it, and really kind of master it, and then you go back and revisit, and then you learn, you see a new shade. And that's actually how it is. It kind of reveals itself to you.
Okay.
So it is complicated. And so if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, slow down, that's normal.
Okay.
There's so much I feel like I do know, and there's so much that I don't know.
Okay.
But that's why I'm still actively, getting mentorship.
Do you think are you able to see like a trajectory, or are you able to see a window in time, like a 7-year cycle for
Transits.
someone? Can you tell me, like, what is a transit?
So planets, everything's moving.
And why is Mercury like always in retrograde?
It moves faster.
Everybody, it's like shit's going down and Mercury's in retrograde. I'm like, wasn't it just in retrograde like 2 months ago? Again with the Mercury?
It's because the planets are moving. Some are moving fast, some are moving slow, period. Mercury moves faster. So it's shifting through faster and retrograding, 3 times a year.
3 times a year.
3 times a year.
Okay, what are those times?
So retrogrades,
or does it change each year?
It's it shifts a little bit.
Okay.
But what a retrograde means is it's the yin feminine principle is to receive, to wait, to trust, to know that things are shifting and coming. I don't need to always be pursuing. It's not always summer. It's also winter. So in astrology, these cycles of energy are always happening. Retrogrades are a period of time when it appears that a planet stops and is almost going backwards. And so that period of time, for example, Mercury, that's the energy of, it's our mental realm, it's thoughts, it's how we...
So what are you supposed to have? Like, how do you plan for it? Like seriously, maybe you shouldn't go on vacation. Maybe you shouldn't make big big decisions. It is a time of winter. It's a time of retreat. It's a time of reflection. Like should we, think about those things, not do maybe not buy a house, not have a major business transaction, or like, how should you prepare? And I had a really painful one happen in September. I think it was, I don't know, September, October, where like bad things, like one after the other, and it made me like not want to leave the house. Where it's like I honestly don't know what else. Like people falling down the stairs. My husband fell down the stairs. Our dog was attacked. My other health things. It was like, the sky is falling type thing.
Yeah, maybe that's not all having to do with Mercury retrograde. And I'm not the type of astrologer who's going to tell you, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Right.
What it is planning ahead, and then knowing that the energy of a retrograde is to kind of pull back, reassess, reflect, rewrite, re-edit, pause a little bit.
Okay.
That doesn't mean, and then you need to listen to your intuition, right? Like, so if you have something that's already...
But it makes sense.
It does. But if you have something already in the works, and then you get into a retrograde, and maybe it's going to come to a head, like a contract or something, it's not like you can't sign that contract.
Right.
It's just, let it play out naturally. And I think when you start to like make the space that the stars are asking you to make, then you start shifting how you use your energy and pausing and reflecting and waiting a little bit before you make your next move. That's all it is.
But it makes sense. Like if you have the whole year, you have 12 months.
Yeah.
It is natural that there's going to be an ebb and a flow.
Yeah.
Like it can't be all flow, all yang all the time. No. There has to be this balance. So that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, the other thing I had asked you about was transits, and I want to go back to that.
Mm-hmm. So a transit is when you have a natal chart, your birth chart,
yes,
which is a picture of the stars and the planets at the moment you were born.
Right.
So a natal placement of a planet, I know that sounds complicated, but wherever your Jupiter is in your birth chart is in a specific realm of your life. And Jupiter has a transit of 12 years. When Jupiter, which is always moving, comes back to the exact place of your placement, well, so that's a type of transit. That's it. That's called a conjunction. It's coming together. It also can come into a different, it's geometry. It's like angular relationships. So a conjunction is when they're merged. A 90-degree relationship is called a square. So maybe transiting Jupiter is square your natal Jupiter, and a square relationship is something that creates friction, needs to be addressed, and is like there's going to be some change.
Have you seen this happen in your own life?
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, so Pluto... So my moon sign is Capricorn.
Okay.
And Pluto actually just shifted into Aquarius. It's either today or tomorrow.
Okay.
So Pluto's been journeying slowly through Capricorn for many years, but it journeyed over my moon placement.
Okay.
And you feel that before and after.
Okay.
And it's a period of time when, like, your moon is like your emotional realm. Mm-hmm. It's your inner world. It's how you feel about things. And Pluto is the energy of transformation. Mm-hmm. So it's going to come and it's going to transform what's there. So I've spent the last, 4 years really, as I told you before, like really going in and asking myself, how do I want to feel? Right. So how do I want to work that supports how I want to feel? Mm-hmm. How do I feel? You're revisiting your inner life and what in your meaning, and it's going to change. It's going to leave, and you're going to be changed. And that's true. So that's probably the most recent one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the Aries.
Aries.
So like what does everyone besides me need to know? Like, because it is the beginning of the zodiac.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of essentially now we're all starting 2023 together.
Exactly.
Okay. So
this is the start of the
Happy New
astrological
Year.
New Year. Happy New Year.
So what do we need to know?
So I'll tell you the story of the zodiac.
Okay.
And I think that's how it makes
I mean, I have the
sense.
story of the zodiac, like oh no, never mind. That was the Chinese zodiac. It's a really good book. My kids love it.
So you can see the journey of the zodiac signs. There's 12 signs. And the first thing is that all of the signs are within us.
Right.
So you have Aries energy in your chart somewhere. It's just not my sun sign.
Right.
You know, for you, it's your sun sign. Your sun sign is like
you
your
know more than I do.
Essential self.
I think you've seen my chart.
I have your chart.
Yeah.
And so Aries is this Aries kicks off spring. It kicks off the new year. So it's a fire starter. You're a fire sign. It initiates spring. It is the first step into the unknown. Aries is associated with bravery and courage and action and the body and paving your way, entrepreneurial spirit, getting things done and making it happen and acting and not overthinking it and feeling like I can do this. It's a very brave sign.
Yeah. It's exhausting.
Yeah, so I'm sure it can be. But there's also so much beauty to it. And, to initiate something, you need that, like, force. You know how you look outside and there's buds that are trying to push up from the soil. That takes friction. Like, that's hard to do. That takes energy. So Aries is like that.
Yeah, I know.
It's that force.
Yeah.
It's like what pushes the baby out of the birth canal. That's how I would say Aries is. And it's a masculine energy, young force. And then after that, so you enter into the unknown, you take the leap, you begin a journey of a soul evolving. Because the zodiac is like, it's learning all the components of being a soul. First you have to start and have your essential energy. Then your second house, you journey into the second house, which is the sign of Taurus. And Taurus is like, cool, we started this journey. How are we going to make it happen? What resources do we have? Do we have food? Do we have reserves? How are we going to make money? How are we going to make a plan? What are we going to do?
My husband's a Taurus.
It's a stabilizing energy.
Yeah,
it's an earth sign.
I'm always like, let's go, let's do it. And he's like, I'll do it when I'm ready. And I'm like, we have to do it now.
It's a yin sign.
Yeah, so, I know.
So the way that the zodiac goes is it's yang, yin, yang, yin. It rotates.
I did not know that.
So you are an Aries sun. He's a Taurus sun. And you're making the plans. And he's saying, hang on, slow down. Let's discern. Let's make a plan. I want my resources. I want this to be good. I want to make it happen. And it might be annoying, but it's also really smart.
Yeah. No, and he also brings me back from whatever tailspin or wherever I'm going. He can reel me in because I can just get totally carried away with whatever is presented to me at that moment.
Yeah. So then we move into Gemini, and Gemini is like, all right, so we've begun, we have our resources. Now we gotta like gather and share. We gotta find people. How are we gonna do this? Like, we need connections, we need relationships, we need to like make a plan. We need to think about this.
Oh my gosh, you're freaking me out.
And then
my daughter is a Gemini.
Really? Oh, it's so good. You have a sequence.
Yeah.
And then so Gemini is making all those connections and plans, and then you move into Cancer. I'm a Cancer sun, and Cancer is...
We're in July now, right? Yeah.
July. Cancer says, hang on, before we move too fast, how are we going to... What about like our feeling of belonging and family, and like where are our roots, and how we need like a foundation.
It feels like this, like one step forward, maybe half a step back, another step, and then this like kind of give and take. Okay.
It's just an evolution, and then so Cancer is a water sign, and then you move into Leo, and Cancer also is initiating summer. So Aries initiates spring, Cancer initiates summer. Then you go to Leo, and Leo's like, all right, we have our resources, we have our connections, we know where we come from, and now we need to just have a little fun.
Okay.
Let's play. Let's feel like we have enough. Let's trust ourselves.
Okay.
Let's keep the campfire going. And then transitions into Virgo, and Virgo's like, really? We need some more work to do. You can't just sit around and play. We need to make this efficient. We need to sift through what's really necessary. We need to gather resources again. It's an earth sign. So it's going through the elements, and all the elements bring a different energy, right? So it's a journey of the components of ourselves. And then Virgo transitions into Libra, and Libra is the first sign that's really focused on relationships and building and considering the other, and building a network of relationships to further strengthen, the journey along the way. And then Scorpio comes, and Scorpio's like, yeah, relationships sound nice, but I don't trust you. You have to be trustworthy. Because Scorpio is kind of represents, we need to also know the shadow and what's the deeper part of ourselves.
Scorpio is when to when?
Scorpio is end of October through middle of November.
Okay. And
that's a yin sign, a water sign.
Okay. And then the one before that?
Libra.
Libra is when to when?
End of September through mid-October. Air sign.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then from Scorpio, we journey into Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is like, you're too serious, Scorpio. You need to have some fun. You need to expand your horizons. So they're more like the Leo.
The Leo
it's a fire
wants
sign.
To have fun.
Exactly. Yeah, the water signs want to pause and reflect.
Okay.
The fire signs are taking action.
Right.
The air signs are connecting.
Okay.
The earth signs are stabilizing.
Okay.
Those are the components.
Okay.
So Sagittarius expands its place in the world by having adventures, studying, learning from other cultures, learning from other people, and really just ready for an adventure to broaden your horizons. Mm-hmm. You kind of can't put a Sagittarius, you can't pinpoint them. They want to go all over the place. Mm-hmm. And then from Sagittarius, it moves to Aquarius, and you and I have this in common. So I'm an Aquarius rising, you're an Aquarius rising. And Aquarius is like, hey, nobody's mentioned community until now. I heard a really great astrologer, Colin Bedell. His handle is Queer Cosmos, and he is so funny, but he's so intelligent. He's a Gemini. He is able to he just told the story of the zodiac in a really funny way that had a lot of swear words in it on Instagram, but in a kind of cheeky way. But he said
I think that's good because
it's hilarious.
Well, but like I said, it makes it super accessible.
Yeah,
even
accessible.
This is more accessible because
it's a story.
But it's also a story. Yeah, and I think like we said, the zodiac can be kind of complicated, and you don't know what a lot of these terms mean. So this is really helpful.
It is. I think it is. It helped me. Aquarius is nobody mentioned community. How about community, folks? We can't survive if we don't have community. We need to know our values, surround ourselves with the people that uphold them and uplift them, and we need to band together to help us survive and rethink the systems and create new ones and innovate. And that's Aquarius. And then Capricorn's sure, I can do all those. Actually, did I skip Capricorn and then do Aquarius? I think I did. Yeah, I did. From Sagittarius, this is my bad. Sagittarius goes to Capricorn, and Capricorn's I can do everything. I'm the master. I work hard. I know how to do it. I've climbed this mountain. What have all of you all done? Sagittarius is off, expanding their horizons and having adventures, and Capricorn's I'm making this work. This is how you do it. This is the structure. These are the systems.
And Capricorn is January?
That's end of December to January.
Okay.
And then from Capricorn goes Aquarius, who brings in community and innovation and technology and things like that. And then everything dissolves into Pisces, which is the last the last sign of the zodiac is a water sign. And so we've just coming out of Pisces season, and Pisces season is a complete, so different from Aries. It's like everything dissolves. You're trying to make meaning out of the whole journey. You're making meaning out of the whole year. You're kind of seeing that we've learned so many different things, but really at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is that we're all connected. Love is the highest energy. And, let's just come together and be together and love each other. And that's the only way we're going to survive. Okay. And let's begin again and renew again.
Wow. So then it starts all over again.
Starts all over again.
So is this Aries season any different than any other Aries season? Like, what do people, if people are, I don't know, how does this, like, in their business, in their personal lives, in their love life, like, all the different kind of areas, it breaks it down. Like, what do people need to be paying attention to, doing, stop doing, reflecting, like all of those things? What's like a takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, a lot is happening this year astrologically. Shifting into new signs is a big deal. So Pluto shifting into Aquarius from Capricorn is a very big shift. It's going to take a long time, so it's not an immediate change, but it's a value shift. Going from Capricorn, Earth realm, Earth-related things, I don't want to oversimplify, but shifting into the energy of Aquarius is a major shift. And then Saturn shifted into Pisces. And that's another major shift, because it's shifting from Saturn in Aquarius, which has been the last 3 years since 2020. It's been the pandemic. That's when we shifted into Aquarius. It was March 2020. Oh my God.
Okay. So we shifted into Aquarius in March 2020.
Yeah, and now we've shifted. Now it's like completed.
Is it done?
It's done. I mean, that cycle is
done. Can we
done.
just like give a...
It's a big deal.
Like a sigh, like a...
Yeah, we made it through. I know.
An out breath.
And I feel like, have you noticed in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed so many people talking to me about the pandemic. And I feel like
that thing that was behind us?
Yeah, but it's coming up fresh in their minds. Like they're like reflecting in a deeper way.
Yeah.
Where I think we all kind of collectively have some amnesia around it, because sometimes it's just too difficult to process. But then you get
we haven't processed
wave.
it.
No,
at all.
We're shedding layers of it, but it will be processed for many years to come. But with Aries, it's a different season because Jupiter is there, and where Jupiter is, Jupiter expands things. So it could be opportunities and lucky things, but to happen in the area of your chart. So look at your birth chart. Go to astro.com.
Okay.
That's how you can get your free birth chart.
Okay.
Anybody can do it. It's free. You need to know your birth time.
Yes.
Try to figure that out and find out where Aries is in your chart. And Jupiter is there right now. So Jupiter, for me, and you actually, is in our second house right now. And the second house, that's Taurus's house. That's the house of gathering resources, of stabilizing. How are we going to do this? How are we going to, what resources do we have to provide? And how are we going to bring in resources? How are we going to make money? How are we going to offer, what gifts are we offering in exchange?
I feel all of that right now.
Right?
All of that.
You're expanding in that house of what's possible, how you do things, and how you can make more resources. So that's where it's going to be for us for a long time.
I love it.
I know. And so it could be in someone's house of relationships. It could be in someone's house of their career. But for us, it's in our house of resources.
A house of resources. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a term that we use often, and something that I got from another client, and talking about money specifically with your kids is talking about your family's resources and what your family's resources are focused on, and how that impacts kind of the whole family. And so that word is very sticky for me at the moment.
And each person in your family brings their own resources, right?
Yes.
We all are bringing something. That's our innate gifts. And those are resources.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not just...
It's not financial.
Not only.
Okay.
You know, like me being of service in a healing profession, I am bringing my innate resources to the world.
Right.
And I am being rewarded for that. And you can make money, or you can bring your innate gifts and feel the exchange of that. Mm-hmm. And it's the same, but it's different.
Right.
You know, but we all have our innate gifts, and like when you then can make a living off of doing what you love and what you're passionate about, it feels nice.
How do people find their innate gifts? If they, like, let's say, because it sounds like to me,
get a chart with me as an astrologer.
I love it. I love it. And how do we do that? We do that at what?
Soulfulsomaticcoaching.com.
Okay. Soulful Somatic Coaching, and we will link that as well.
Yeah. Send me a message. Yeah. I offer a couple services now.
Because some people don't. They don't know what their
of
gifts
course.
are. So if you can, sometimes I know you can look at the chart and be like, I see it all right here.
I can help highlight it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then also in the conversation, people innately already know what their gifts are. Mm-hmm. They just need reflection and witnessing back. Mm-hmm. I don't ever think I tell anybody anything they don't know. Mm-hmm. It's not some witchcraft, you know, it's not some like magical thing.
But it goes back to what we talked about of that inner trust.
Yeah.
No. We said
self-trust.
The self-trust.
Exactly.
That it's somehow broken along the way.
Yeah.
And that it does take some intervention to kind of pick up the pieces.
Right.
And re-find it. Mm-hmm. So someone like you can help with that.
I think so.
Yeah.
For sure.
I love that. I love the self-trust.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So we could literally talk for hours.
I know.
And I want to just ask you like one other thing that, and we didn't talk about this, but I'm curious, what is your favorite quote? Do you have a favorite quote or a mantra that you come back to throughout your life, throughout your business, throughout being a mother, or something that you've even just listened to recently that's like really struck you?
Well, you mentioned something that really resonated with me about the person saying that I want to go deeper, not wider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100% love that. And that couldn't be more in alignment with just my whole, place in this life, is to help encourage people to slow down, have a stronger connection with their body, have a stronger connection with their intuition to heal, because sometimes based on our wounding, it messes with our intuition. And so sometimes your intuition isn't actually your intuition. It's like a collection of your trauma responses. So I also highly encourage you to go to therapy if you can for any early wounding and attachment issues and things like that, and to understand your own specific trauma, soup. But I think there's two things. There's one quote that I've always loved, and I still always do, and it's by Thoreau, and it's, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. And doesn't need to be men, women, humans, I would say. And I remember reading that quote when I was young, and 12 or something, and it really struck me. I've been really attuned to emotions, the emotions of others, my own emotions, and feel that like water holds memory. So I'm a water sign, and there's just things that I know and feel and understand.
What is that? What do you think that means, a quiet desperation?
I think it means the struggle to make your insides match your outsides. The struggle to be born into a human life, not really understanding what it means to be a human. The invitation to have a greater understanding of what that actually means through your trials and struggles and pain and also joys. I mean, it's a mixed bag. And like to feel that you don't belong or that you can't express yourself, or maybe you're born into a time when you really can't be your authentic self. And, you know, plenty of people that you're bumping up against systems that are oppressive and harmful and hurting you, and they're within you also. And just the desperation of wanting to feel free and like we are okay and that we belong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, I think that's a shared experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why do people want to know their purpose? Because they want to feel alignment.
Mm-hmm.
They want to feel like they're allowed to be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that means you're breaking off from the way that your family thinks, or that your religion thinks, or your society even thinks. It's being true and authentic. You know, that's the word I would say, and brave enough to do so.
So that quote inspired you to break that cycle, essentially, for people.
Yeah, and for myself.
Okay.
I mean, I think that I felt different in my family.
Yeah.
And I think that I am innately challenging to the status quo, I guess. And I struggled, like, as a kid with friendships and things and being, like, socially accepted. And I always felt lonely. But I felt different. Mm-hmm. And yet we really want to belong. Like, a core human need is to feel a sense of belonging.
Yes.
And
I feel different.
Yeah. That's our Aquarius rising.
Well, but being, you know, in your early 40s, I still don't have, like, let's say, and I think, you know, a lot of the structures in our society do provide that belonging, church, religion, for example. I don't have, like, a group or like a group of people that I necessarily identify with. Like, I just haven't found that yet. And I might never find that, where it's like, you know, we're super passionate about this, and then that's like our thing. And that can be a lot. I mean, it could be like biking, like outdoor biking, and then that's like your group. Or for moms, it could be like this core mommy group, or this religious group, or this gardening club, or this whatever, this thing where you have people come together and they identify around a particular activity or thought. I've never found that. I don't feel that I connect with, I would say, mainstream society in so many different ways, and it can feel really isolating. Yeah. I mean, there's times where it's like, oh, I can play and pretend to be that, or I could go and, you know, do this and for a while, but I don't want to stay there and like identify with that. Is that what Aquarius?
Yeah, I mean, I like that you said the word identify, because like all those things, those are ways that we seek belonging, is by having identity, like an identity project. Like, just shared interest doesn't actually, that could provide a sense of belonging, but really in a deeper way, belonging to me, what I've learned, my life and all the experiences that I've had has brought me into greater connection with belonging with all beings, like belonging in the sense of being a human being sharing this planet.
I like that.
Yeah, it's belonging goes beyond your nuclear family. Like, what does family mean? Like, family is our humanity. Family is feeling connected to something much greater than just our individual experiences, seeing ourselves in a network, learning how to feel and exercise self-compassion was the doorway for me to feel this sense of belonging.
So you don't need to be going to Wine Wednesdays with the moms to have a sense of belonging, because you can look at it from more of a macro perspective. It's like, I belong on this earth, and I'm here and valuable and worthy.
I belong because I was born.
Because I was born here.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
You don't have to earn it.
Yeah.
And
you don't have to have a lot of friends or, you know, neighbors that, I love it.
Being a human is so much more than belonging to the systems that we've created.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And I agree with you. I'm a good pretender. I'm on the outside, I probably look like I fit in with mainstream society, and by and large, I do. But I'm also committed to the pursuit of truth and truth telling, and that inherently is, I don't take things and think, oh, okay, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to question that. I'm going to think about that. The Aquarius energy is like, you don't just take a system as one and done. You take a system and you consider it and you think, does this work? Is this working for everybody? What kind of community is this building? Who's being supported in this? Who's being left out? How can we create greater ones? How can we include others? It is fundamentally oriented towards the collective, impact, and making a difference. And that means being willing to not always be a part of the group. But that's okay. I don't mind not being a part of the group, the human group, my family group, whatever. I'm a part of the greater group of being a human being amongst other beings that are my sisters and brothers, and and that to me is like, I feel that now. As a kid, I did not. Although it's interesting that when I was a kid, I loved being in nature. I loved being in trees. I spent all my time outside.
Yeah, I did too.
And that's where I feel home.
Yeah.
That's where I felt the most at home.
Yeah, that's interesting. I spent a tremendous amount of time outside.
I'm so grateful. And that, I think, and we're still getting that off for the electric rainbows.
I know.
Oh, God, it never gets old.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome.
This was so awesome.
It was.
So I just want to remind everyone again, soulfulsomaticcoaching.com.
Yeah.
Thank you, Britta.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. For more info, you can always find us at yin-project.com. Make it a great day.